All right, welcome, y'all. This is May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. It's the office hours gathering for the Simplest Marketing Plan. It's May 2023, and I'm thrilled to see y'all here. We have a lot to go over and a lot to focus on and a lot of networking to do. But first, we're going to do a poll. So the poll that we always do, just to keep an eye on the trend of how busy everyone is. So the question is, how busy are you with client work right now? And the options are too busy, busy enough, slow, or no work at all. And no work at all may not necessarily be a bad thing. It may be how you want it. So go ahead and take the poll while I let a few more people in. All right, it looks like almost everyone has voted. All right, and actually, all right, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results and take a picture of the results because I always forget to do that. And you can see that 2% of you are too busy compared to 5% last month. 31% of you are busy enough compared to 40% last month. 44% are slow compared to 31% last month. Interesting. And 23% of you have no work at all compared to 24% last month. So that's very interesting. And I will say, in line with what I've been hearing from people who are doing their marketing, and it's working, but things are slow. So if things are slow for you, then marketing is probably what you need to perhaps ramp up, maybe networking, maybe some targeted outreach, certainly some content marketing. But yeah, that is what's happening. So you're not alone if you were at all worried that it was you. It's not you. So, all right. Today and Q2, as you probably know by now, is all about strategic networking. And just as a little aside, we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end, but perhaps you've noticed that we have a live event coming up on May 15th. It's called Jumpstart Your Networking. And it's going to be really fun. Some of my clients are going to be sharing their experiences, and I hope you can all make it. It's free, of course, and we'll be offering something new that most people have not seen yet. So make sure you sign up if you haven't already. And today, actually, I'm going to give you a sneak peek at one of the things that we'll be offering, which is, it's called It's Who You Know. It's a 139-page ebook that I've just updated. And along with it, there's going to be a live masterclass about in-person networking, and we'll use the ebook as a textbook. So that's just one of the things that you'll get to partake in. And then, of course, we'll have a fast action bonus, as we always do for the people who buy in the 61 minutes right after the event, because I'm still 61. So that is coming up, and we'll have more links to share later on. All right, but our focus today is in-person strategic networking. And I'll give some definitions first, but this is something for those of you who joined the live stream on LinkedIn on Wednesday with Andy Brennitz. We were talking a lot about in-person networking, and that is actually now this weekend's podcast. So that is up on the blog. I'll share that link in the replay. And where we are, let me share my screen. On the Simplest Marketing Plan, just so you know, we're on page 8 here, where it's all about strategic networking and knowing who your people are. And I'm defining your people as the clients themselves, but not only. They are also your referral sources and partners who offer complementary services and with whom you could collaborate. They're also your vendors, they're your colleagues, they're your past clients, they're your friends and family. Your network, your people is really everyone in your circle. And so we have defined strategic networking as knowing who your people are and then making business friends, right? If you think about it, if you reframe the way you think about who these people are, they're your business friends and people you enjoy and want to work with. And it's rooted in your network. And I think, and this came up in my conversation, the live stream I did with Terry Trespicio a couple of weeks ago, this idea that networking people feel all yucky about, but the truth is your network is your most important business asset. And so if you don't do networking, then you're not cultivating your most important business asset. And she said, if you take care of your network will take care of you. And I definitely agree with that. So that's what we mean when we talk about strategic networking. So now I want to ask some questions in the chat about how you feel about networking, because I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings about networking. And so the first question is live in-person networking more painful or more fun than online networking? And if so, either one, why? Let's take a moment. I'd love to hear, see, Bonnie will read it to me. How do you think about the painfulness or the funness of live in-person networking? We're not talking about LinkedIn now. We're not talking about online networking, in-person networking, which is something that a lot of people haven't been doing lately for obvious reasons, but a lot more people are getting back into it, including me. I'm getting ready to go to How Design Live in early June. So if you're going to be there, you will see me. All right. What are they saying, Bonnie?
Most people say it's more fun with a side of painful and scary. And I do like that somebody said it's more fun because it's more authentic. And somebody said because you can read body language. And yet some people said it's harder because it's scarier. It's scary until I get there, and then it's usually fun.
That's a really good point. Right? What we do in our head in advance, some people call it fantasizing, some people call it making stuff up. But that is, I think, the biggest problem with networking is what we do before we get there in our head. So actually, I'm going to ask, but I'm going to answer this question now because it's more organic. How do we remove the pain of that? Stop making stuff up, right? Stop even imagining what it's going to be like. I think that's a mental habit. And a lot of people need to stop. All right. Another question. This is about the difference between networking in a group or networking one-on-one, because with Andy Brennitz also, we talked a lot about the benefit of networking one-on-one, which is definitely a thing. So is networking in a group, and you define what a group is, not me, more painful or more fun than doing it one-on-one? And if so, why? What is it about the group experience or the one-on-one experience? What are they saying?
Well, the first two answers referred to groups as exhausting. And I can relate to that. I've seen that actually that word has come up a few more times. And one person said, I can't do groups. I don't interact in a group. Depends on the size of the group. So it seems like there's a lot of pushback just to the word group.
Interesting.
But also a lot of people saying, yeah, I definitely prefer one-on-one. So this is, yeah.
But the thing
about
about
almost everybody, sorry.
Yeah, the thing about groups, though, is that you can do one-on-one networking in a group environment, right? You can go and just have your goal be talk to one person. That's it. Find one person to have a meaningful conversation with, an interesting conversation with, and then forget about the rest of them, right? Just go looking for your one person. That's what I do. All right, now, so the question was, and I'm going to answer this question, how do we remove the pain if you find it painful, right? And not everybody does. And I used to, but I don't anymore. And I have this idea, and I had written about it in this ebook, which you're going to get a sneak peek of. So let me share my screen again. And we're going to go back over here. So there's the simplest marketing plan. And if I pull that down, we get It's Who You Know. And let me go over here to page 86 and zoom in a little bit. I'm just going to read aloud because I love to read aloud. So removing the pain, to me, this is the mindset shift that I want to put forth. This idea that you don't have to be up, you just have to be open. Because a lot of people do a lot of feelings and think, oh, I got to be up. And I said, does that ever happen to you? You put a networking event on your calendar, but as the day approaches, you start to get in an uncomfortable feeling because you're making stuff up. And when it comes time to go, you just don't feel like it. Well, guess what? Whether you feel like it or not is, to me, irrelevant. That may sound a bit harsh, but your business goals are important and probably too often lose out to your feelings. If you get into the habit of giving into your feelings, which I put in quotation marks, as in I don't feel like going to that event, or I don't like cold calling, or I'm afraid of rejection, your business will not grow to its potential. It's that simple. Believe it or not, you don't need to feel like it to do effective networking. You don't need to be up, energized, or enthusiastic in order to meet new people. In fact, listening comes more easily when you're open, neutral, and ready to respond, not when you're psyched up. And you know what often happens when you go to an event if you don't feel like it, you talk to a bunch of people, make some good connections, and leave feeling energized because of the real contact you made with other people, the real contact you made with other people. And that's how your business grows. So I want to share one other idea about this real people, this idea of real people. Because lately, I've been noticing that there are two kinds of people. There are talkers and there are relators. And a talker is someone basically who is talking, doing essentially a monologue. And it may sound like a dialogue because they talk and then you talk, but it's not. And you can kind of feel it. I don't know about you, but I can feel it when someone is just talking at me, as opposed to talking to me or talking with me. And those are the relators. And there's something that happens in the moment if you let it, if you're open to it, if you're not trying to force a conversation and you just see where it goes. And those are people with whom that is possible. And I actually find it kind of rare to have a conversation with a relator. So I'm curious, this is, again, a new idea that I came up with this week. And I'm curious if you identify with this and if you think of yourself as a relator or a talker. And it may be a question of just starting to notice the difference as you're going out there in the world, whether it's networking or, in the grocery store. I talk to people in the grocery store.
One person said, still not sure what a relator is exactly.
Yeah, it's and I'll try to explain a little bit more as we go, but it's someone who you could tell they are responding directly to what you said and not saying something they've rehearsed or something they've said before or something that is just the thing that they say when this other thing gets said. Right? That it's fresh, it's new, it's in the moment. I don't know. This has come up because I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately and interviewing people, and you can tell when people are just giving you their talking points as opposed to saying something they've never thought of before or never said before. To me, that is the epitome of relating and could, if you bring it to your networking, could make it a really, really interesting experience. So just a psychological idea there to put on the table. All right, we're going to move on. So what I want to talk about now, and in about 10 minutes, we're going to have you talk about these things also. But first, we're going to talk about the three, I would say, aspects of, or difficult aspects of networking, as I've been told. One is getting into conversations. So we're actually going to brainstorm a list of conversation starters when we come back after the breakout sessions. And then we'll share them in the chat and verbally. But often the question is, who should you talk to? And how do you decide who to talk to at an event? And my suggestion is, number one, if you're an introvert, find other introverts. They will love you, right? If it's someone sitting in a corner by themselves or someone who looks like they're uncomfortable, go talk to them. You can ask them, is this your first time here? Do you know anyone here? Right? But I love this idea of helping, right? Because networking is all about helping others, helping the other introverts, or talk to the hosts. My recommendation in general is to let it be really random. Don't have an agenda. Yes, you can prepare. Yes, if you know who's going to be there and there are certain people you want to talk to, that's great. But it's sometimes better just to let it be very random and be open, right? Not up, but open. Number two, actually one other thought there about the discomfort of getting conversations started. Have you ever been at an event and you're just like standing there alone and you're sure that everyone is staring at you because you're the only one who's not talking to someone else? And then what do you do? I'd be curious to hear if you have a solution to that moment, or if you've seen other people do things in that moment.
I like Sarah's response. Go to the food table.
Yes, I totally agree.
Go get another drink. That's a great scarf you're wearing. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy feeling weird.
Yeah.
Sometimes leave.
Antonio, you want to say something?
Yeah, it's also about permission. Give yourself permission to crash into a conversation or even just to show up and say hello, because networking events are for that. So you're not being rude, you're not being unpolite, you're showing, going there and saying hello, which is what everybody's there supposed to do. So exactly. Sometimes we get like feelings like when we were teenagers, right? And in a party, and it's scary to do anything. But in a networking event as an adult, you have permission. You have permission to go and meet people. So yes, there's that first step to take.
And also to remember that everyone is there for that reason. That's the whole purpose of it. You don't have a secret agenda that you're trying to get something. Everyone is there to get something and to meet people and to develop relationships. Okay. So as I said, in the breakouts, I'm going to ask you to brainstorm a list of conversation starters that we can share at the end. But number two, in terms of these kind of awkward moments, is contributing to a conversation or joining a conversation that is already in process. And this came to my mind this morning because I was in my yoga class and we were all talking about, we were doing chit chat. Someone was telling a story about what they do when they can't fall asleep. Another person told a story about their dog. I told a story about my dog. And then we stopped and we did the class, and I had this idea like, oh, I had a memory of being young and not understanding how people fit themselves into the conversation and found space to tell their own story or to share an anecdote. And so I think that part of what's really important, and I want you to practice this in the networking breakouts too, is making space for other people to join and practicing finding space, looking for those little windows and moments where you can also join. So when I do the breakouts, they're going to be big enough that there will be opportunities for everyone to say, oh, you haven't spoken yet. What do you want to add to this conversation? Right? So that will be part of the prescription. But I think this is a really important thing to be, just again, be paying attention. How do you make space for others, and how do others make space for you? Because some don't, right? Those are the talkers. The relators make space. Yes, Bonnie.
There was a question that came up related to group networking that might be useful before we go into the breakouts. Marty was saying, I don't know how to interact with a group unless you're either a preacher or a pole dancer. Love that. What does networking with a group even really mean?
Let's hold that question and we'll come back to it at the end. Remind me, because I want to get the third point in here before we do the breakouts. But that is a good question with a lot of alliteration. Thank you, Marty. She knows I like that. All right. So the first one is getting into conversations. The second is contributing to or joining an ongoing conversation. And the third is getting out of conversations. And this is something I know that people don't get into them because they don't know how they're going to get out of them, especially if you're with a talker, right? With a relator, it's fine because there are these openings, but with a talker, it is tricky and you have to have strategies. And actually I have a lot of strategies in the ebook in It's Who You Know, and actually, Terry Trespicio and I talked a lot about this in the live stream we did a couple of weeks ago, which I will share in the replay as well. If you didn't see it, how do you get out of a conversation? But the point I want to make is that during the conversation, you need to be setting the foundation for your follow-up. You need to be remembering that you're going to follow up with this person. You're going to ask for their business card if they don't offer it to you. If they don't have one, you're going to beam them their QR code on LinkedIn or somehow connect. And then you're going to be thinking about, what am I going to say in my follow-up? And that can be part of how you get out of the conversation. So perhaps you think of a resource that you want to share and you say, you know what? I'm going to take your card and I'm going to follow up by sending you a link to that resource or that article or that thing that we just discussed. Or maybe you have an idea, or maybe in that moment, you don't know what your idea is going to be, but in your follow-up, you say, you know, I was thinking about that thing we talked about, and you remember because you wrote it down on the back of their card or you dictated it into your phone. And that's what you're going to use as your follow-up. So you're busy when you're networking, also setting the foundation for your follow-up so that when you get to your desk the next day or the next week, whenever you do it, sooner rather than later, your mind is not blank and you can't remember who that person is, right? That's a big part of not doing the follow-up, is these problems in our brain, let's say. All right. So I'm going to stop there and open the breakout rooms. Bonnie, are there any things in the chat I need to know about or attend to before we do that?
Nope, I'm just going to put your prompt in the chat here for the breakout room.
All right, so the prompt is to practice making space for others and finding moments and windows for yourself to join while you talk about conversation starters, right? So the topic is conversation starters. Do you have favorite conversation starters? Do you have ideas about what are probably bad conversation starters, and maybe you're wrong, right? I want you to share conversation starters so that we can come and brainstorm a list together when we come back in 15 minutes. So you're going to have 15 minutes. There might be 3 or 4 or even 5 people in some of the rooms. So make space for everyone to share. Don't spend all your time giving your elevator pitch. You can do that if you want, but not the whole time. And what else was I going to say? I think that might be all. Am I forgetting anything, Bonnie?
I think
Any
that
questions?
sounds great.
Okay, any questions? All right. So I'm going to, I wanted to say, I know I hear a lot of people hopping off because perhaps they don't want to do the networking, which is fine. If you don't want to do the networking, then just don't click join and or just mute yourself here in the big room. But I hope you will, because that's one of the best things about the office hours. So I've been told. So I'm going to turn off the recording. All right, welcome back, y'all. Everyone was smiling when they came back, so I hope that means you had a good time. Now, what I want to do for the rest of the time is brainstorm in the chat all the conversation starters that you came up with. I would love to see those. And we're going to answer questions. And if people want to make comments about what they learned or an aha moment that happened, maybe it had nothing to do with the conversation starters, that's fine. Maybe it had to do with making space, practicing jumping in, anything about that experience. Let's start with that. So raise your hand if you want to say something, your electronic hand, if possible, because I can't see everyone on my screen. There are so many of you.
And if anyone doesn't know where your electronic hand is, down at the bottom of the screen where it says reactions,
Thank you.
there's a little raise hand button.
They're awfully quiet today for Cinco de Mayo. Obviously, not enough people had a margarita. All right, Marty, I see your hand, and then Mary. Marty, and then Mary. Marty Marsh, and then, because we have two Martys, a female and a male, and then Mary. Marty, you can unmute yourself.
I had great fun in my group.
What was so fun about it?
Well, it was just, I don't know, we just had a conversation. It was just, I don't know, Antonio got us started because we figured he was the most outgoing, and I don't know, the conversation just flowed. We had fun. One thing led to another, and it really was a conversation between all of us. So that's what made it fun for me. So
awesome. I'm thrilled. I'm glad that was possible.
But what I was going to say is one of the things that we talked about was that a way to break the ice with people that I thought was really kind of fun and interesting is, and now I can't remember which one of them brought it up, but that if you know of dates, you know, the days of the month have always, you can look online and find these holidays and weird things going on, and you can always break the ice by asking someone, did you know that today is whatever it happens to be? So
yeah, I happen to have
that,
that screen open, actually. Here it is right here.
Oh, National Today, yes.
See it, right? nationaltoday.com. And so you can see that it's Cinco de Mayo, but also National Hoagie Day, and I guess the birthday of the Buddha. So there's a lot of Buddha oriented ones, right? Like multiple. So this is also, we talked about this in the SMPMP, actually intensive about content marketing, that this is a good opportunity to create some content around a day that means something to you. National Devon Day, who knows, right? National Chipotle Day, National No Pants Day. And you can see that I've been buying shoes. All right. All right. Thank you, Marty. I appreciate that. Mary, what do you want to add?
I thought it was interesting. We talked about group networking and someone in our group, and if she wants to say who she is, that's fine. But I thought it was kind of cute when she said, you know what? I try to relax and I just enjoy feeling weird. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try that. I'm going to just enjoy feeling weird.
I like that, right? And maybe also reframe it as something else besides weird. It's just a different feeling. It's not the one you're used to. Maybe it's something you could get used to. All right, Don, I see you. Talk to us.
Hi. Yeah, I enjoy networking and it gets me out of the house from working at home too much. So the easiest way I've found to do it is to just go on Meetup, and there's bunches of networking groups on Meetup.
Meetup.com,
it's not easy to search. So sometimes I'll search in Google and they just, meet up, networking, North Dallas. And there'll be a bunch that comes up. It's usually I find them easier that way. And then I'll just click to join them and see when they meet. I just show up and sit there for a while, see what they're doing, see which ones are good, see which ones are not asking for money.
Mhm.
I don't usually go to the ones that want you to join and have a lot of pressure, but there's a lot of one-on-one. It's a really great place for small businesses and to meet other, they have small businesses. They're, single entrepreneurs. I meet a lot of them who need some help, but mostly I'm meeting people who are going to pass my name around. If I'm the only graphic artist there, or where there's never very many, creative people, there's just a lot of insurance salesmen.
Right, because the creative people don't like to network for the most part, so they don't go to these types of events. And the other one, the online version, which a lot of people were doing and using at the beginning of the pandemic, but I haven't heard too much about it lately, is Lunch Club. Lunchclub.com, I think, is one. I think some of the people who are here today have tried that. So if you have an experience with Lunch Club, go ahead and share what that was like in the chat as well. Thank you, Don, for sharing. Bonnie, is there anything in the chat we need to hear?
And we just had a lot of conversation starters in there.
Good.
It was the chat was on fire when people were quiet in the room. So
Good.
yes, lots. You guys should definitely check those out, unless you want me to read some.
Let's keep asking questions because we'll have the chat available after the fact in the replay. So you'll have access to it. You don't even have to click to download it if you can't do that, but you can do that too. All right, Margaret, I see you. Talk to us.
Hi there.
Hi.
Well, I had the pleasure of being in a triad with two Southern gentlemen. So it was very easy for me to relate. And true to form, they were true gentlemen. And one politely started the conversation and the other quietly waited. And it was a nice round robin, if you will, of, ebb and flow. And we all everybody was so gracious with allowing time as well as listening. And then everybody popped up with, oh, you should try. So both boys were very generous with, here's who you should reach out to. Here's who you should call. So I was quite, I'm in gratitude for the generosity that was shown to me as a stranger, but I felt very at home with them. So, it was just nice for everybody to be listening and to be engaged. So it was a wonderful experience for me.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled. Thank you for sharing that. All right. We have a few more minutes. I see Ruth. So Ruth, if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead. And then we're going to answer Marty's question. And then Antonio has an illustration for what we've been talking about today. So he's going to share his screen and show that before we wrap up. So Ruth, talk to us.
Just in the category of other ways to start a conversation. And it is a nice segue to Antonio, because what I often do at a meeting is bring an iPad or a notepad and share sketch features with people and have people sketch something for me on my iPad, just try to have an action. Sometimes I bring my knitting and we talk about knitting. So I bring something to keep I don't know how I want to phrase it, but it seems to be
conversation
like,
starter.
yeah, it's just like a tool that helps me start conversations.
I love that. That's awesome,
And
right?
people actually, if you just say, hey, would you draw a flower? And I'm collecting flowers and I get like 4 or 5 people to draw me a flower on the same screen. And it's just, people think it's fun and funny. So it seems to help me get in there and break a conversation open.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure we have a lot of people who could do that. You don't even have to be a designer or an artist to do that, right? Just ask people to draw a flower.
It's true.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to answer Marty's question, and then Antonio, you can share your screen. Marty said, I don't know how to interact with a group unless you're a preacher or a pole dancer. What does networking with a group mean? So I guess my thought was more one-to-one versus anything that is not one-to-one. And it's just the idea of attending a group event where there are lots of people. It's not necessarily networking with a group. So hopefully that's a little clearer. And, you know, my thought is more about, even in small groups, kind of like what you were doing in the breakouts, finding space for yourself, making space for other people. That to me is part of the dance, not a pole dance, but certainly a dance. All right. Antonio, go ahead and share your screen and unmute yourself and show us what you did.
Yes, I'm very happy to share this with you. Hopefully, this sketch will help you to remember some of the points of our conversation today. Here it is.
All right.
Can you see it? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
talk
who
us
are
through
your
it.
people?
Mm-hmm.
Your people, and of course, there's the Cinco de Mayo hat over there. From left to right, one of the obstacles is what we do in our mind. So there's a guy saying, "Oh, all the eyes will be on me." So if you get out of your head and more in connection with other people, then you can overcome this. Another question today was, well, are you more of a talker or a relator? So one way to train or to practice to be a relator is to ask questions and to be curious about other people. And the other issue here, I don't put the solution for this, but one of the issues is, well, how do you get out of the conversation, right? How do you leave a conversation? And in my group, we were saying, well, one of the ways that you can do it is just to say, oh, you know what, I need to get another drink. I'll see you a bit later. Things like that. And in a networking event, that's fine. Everybody is expected to do these kind of things. So
Beautiful.
there's a few points over there. I hope that you enjoy them. And there's a version. Okay, let me see. Well, there's another version with I wrote something else that just help others feel good, and then people will like that and they will welcome you. So you will receive that version.
Beautiful.
Thank you for allowing me to show you this.
No, thank you so much. And Antonio will send it to me and I will post it in the replay message that I send out on Sunday. So don't worry if you didn't get a screenshot of it, you can have it, the finished version, in your email on Sunday. Thank you so much, Antonio. That's a new thing we're doing because he offered. So I appreciate that. All right, we have 2 minutes. Let's see, there were 2 things I wanted to do. Oh, just a reminder that we are going to do another 10 minutes of networking. For those of you who want to stay, raise your hand, your real hand, if you think you're going to stay for a little bit more networking. Okay, good. And we'll have another prompt. Excellent. And then let's just remind people about signing up for Jumpstart Your Networking. So Bonnie, if you want to share your screen, we made a nice QR code for this. And people can sign up. It's free, and we'll be offering some new offerings, new products at the end with our 61-minute fast action bonus. So hope you'll be there. We're going to try a few new things. It'll be an experiment like everything, but I hope you can join us. That's May 15th from 12 to 1 Eastern. All right. Let me make sure I didn't forget anything. I don't think so. So then actually,
survey, how'd we
oh
do
yes,
here?
let's do the survey. So we always want to know how this went for you and what you liked or what you didn't like. So go ahead and put that in the chat. Thank you so much for giving us your feedback. We make changes. We take it all very seriously. We make changes based on the feedback. And in June, the office hours is not going to be on the first Friday. It's going to be on the second Friday. The first Friday is Bonnie's birthday. And as I said last time, I can't do this without her now. So we're moving it to the 9th, June 9th at 2 p.m. So you'll get reminders about that. But thank you for joining us today. Give us your feedback. stay if you want to do a little bit more networking, and we will momentarily. So for those of you who are signing off, thanks y'all. And we will see you next month and hopefully on May 15th.